Greetings Internet, DDA here, and welcome to a video that I'm so excited to put out to all of you. We have a ton to talk about, and that is because my previous video talked about how I thought Mace Windu was tier 1. Well, we have some PQ results that support that. Look at this. We have a PQ that ran in Germany. I'm not even going to try to attempt to pronounce that name, but 68 players came out to win their spot at the World Championship of Star Wars Unlimited. We got, it's not even just that Mace Blue reigned over the field and was victorious, but look at the top 4. Han Yellow is pretty much the best deck in the format right now. Like, it's an aggressive tempo deck, and it's just a monster. And the top 4, other than the Mace being Han Yellow, is very telling. So I want to take some time to look at the list, analyze it, talk about what I like, what I don't like, what I think are the reasoning behind some of the choices, and then talk about an update to my Mace Red list that I still think has some play in the current meta. But this Mace Blue, obviously with the results that we have here, may just be the better version of Mace, but time will tell. So to get into the Mace Blue list here, some things I want to talk about. The first thing that stood out to me is that the list is run at 52. That may just because certain cards are needed here, even as 1-ofs and 2-ofs. There are a lot of 1-ofs in here, which I personally don't mind. I think Star Wars Unlimited being a 50-card deck, being that you draw 2 cards every turn, you start with 6 cards in your hand. 1-ofs are not cards that you will not see in matches. You will see them just due to the nature of the number of cards that you're drawing. So I have no issue with 1-ofs, so I'm fine with it. But the 52 is interesting to show kind of the grindy nature of the deck, and that even without, because the deck doesn't really have card draw, but even without card draw, it's run at 52 for those grindy matches, I'm assuming. But interesting things here about Mace Windu. So we only have, 7 turn 1 units, which is very interesting. Now, of course, Mace Windu is one of the best characters in the game to use Daring Raid. Daring Raid is a turn 1 play, and is a turn 1 play that can answer most units. I say most because things like Crafty Smuggler and the L337 are not going to be answered by Daring Raid, and of course like R2 unit and things like that. Like there's a few turn 1 plays that can't be answered by Daring Raid. And I'm assuming that in those instances where this Mace deck can't answer the turn 1 play with Daring Raid, doesn't draw one of the units, it's going to focus on getting on that early top target to kind of ride out into the mid game. So that way it can kind of, because Mace has a lot of control over what's on the field at all points in the game, right? So like you kind of pick and choose as Mace what lives and what dies you have a lot of control over that. That's one thing that I love about playing Mace. So putting a top target on something, whatever it is, you can pretty much decide when and where you want to and how you want to kill that unit to get that heal. So I'm assuming that that's why the lightness on the early game units, just 7 of them, very, very light. The Queel in here, I actually played a few games with this deck. I found the Queel to be heavily inconsistent. Me personally, I think the deck is run at about, I want to say slightly over 50% blue. I think it's close to 60%, but I don't know what it was for me. I just found it to be inconsistent. That's just me, though. The one thing that kind of is conflicting with Mace is you have the pinging, damaging effects like Open Fire, Grenade Strike, Daring Raid, Force Throw. Those are all red cards. Pretty much all of the cards that work with Mace ability are red cards. So like you have that little bit of deck building consideration there, that if you're gonna run Queel, you have to very heavily consider the intricate balance between red and blue cards, because Mace is making you play red cards, right? So that's a big one there. Regional Governors, great add in a slow deck, right? Especially in this Han meta. Great to call tech, great to call DJ. They can't tech DJ you, things like that. It's just a great card in multiple matchups. And one of the things I found playing Mace also is Mace is really good at protecting your units, right? Because, you know, your opponent will play down units, and Mace is really good at destroying units. And so, you know, just playing a Regional Governor turn 1, whereas maybe with some other decks, the Regional Governor would go away very, very quickly. You can punish your opponent for attacking your units very heavily as Mace. So again, like this is all like layers added onto this deck that make it just be able to win the PQ that like it did. So continuing on here, the one Mace Windu's lightsaber is something that I've come around on. I have grown to like it. I've been playing it. I added a Mace Windu's lightsaber into my red deck. I like it. I think it's great. The main reasons why it's great is because when you flip Mace, you clear the board. That's pretty much standard for Mace. That's what you should be aiming for. On the Mace flip, you should be defeating at least 2 or 3 of your opponent's units and just clearing the board completely. And then at that point is when you want to push to win the game. So you should be basically like slugging out with Mace and closing out the game at that point. That's why Mace Windu's lightsaber is so strong, because it gives Mace that 7-10 stat line where he's just not going to be defeated by anything, and you're going to be able to push in 7 damage into the base, draw some cards, possibly draw like a 4 or a 3 or a 5 drop, and then be able to have that in your hand to kind of follow up with the Mace Windu attack and things like that. So moving on here, Perilous Position makes sense. I talked about it in my Mace Blue video, how important Perilous is to answer the units that Mace can't answer. Very important there. Yoda makes sense for Force Throw. Force Throw run at 2 here. Makes sense. You only really have Yoda and then Obi-Wan, Luke. It's like you have early game Yoda, and then you have this large gap of Force users that you're not going to see until late game. So like I don't like the 3 Force thrown here. The 2 makes sense to me. Only 1 Grenade Strike, though, which as a red Mace player, I think is crazy. Maybe that's just because of the red cards, right? Grenade Strike has more play into Unlimited Power. It has more play into Rancor and things like that. Like, I can double up on effects a little bit more than the blue deck can, so I value Grenade Strike higher. But I see the 3 bombing runs in here, and that's probably why they're light on the Grenade Strike. Of course, Bombing Run. I've been testing out Bombing Run. Bombing Run in the blue deck serves a very key role, which is, you call it the Mace flip card. And I think that this is the reason the Mace Windu's lightsaber is so important. Because in the blue deck, you're very limited by the number of effects that can ping everything. Like the red deck has Rancors and Unlimited Power. The blue deck doesn't have much. It doesn't have much. So what you want to do on the Mace flip is you want a Bombing Run lightsaber. I feel like that's the best play for the blue deck. You know, Bombing Run, clear the flip, clear the board, Mace lightsaber, 7 to base, draw 2 cards. Sounds great to me. I'm loving it the more we get into it. Razor Crests are in there, top targets. I think mainly just for top targets. Maybe it has some play with throwing the Mace Windu's lightsaber on an early game unit just for early staying power. Like, for example, the Yoda and the Tech and the Queel all hit the 4 damage threshold if you just throw the Mace Windu's lightsaber on there, which is really significant for Mace. Like, getting that 4 damage is really significant. You can have some good unit trades there. So that may be another play. So, like, you use the lightsaber early, and then to get that 4 damage, maybe on units or maybe push base, and then the Razor Crest to get it back for the late game flip. Really significant there. Pillages makes sense, classic in Mace. And then Steela's in here. You can afford the Steela because you have the healing, right? Steela's a great card. Fell the Dragon's a tactic. Takedown's a tactic. All these are tactics. They're just great cards. Bombing Run, tactic. All these are tactics. You have so much play. Vanquish is a tactic. Rival's Fall is a tactic. You have tons of tactics. It's a great card. And the healing supports you being able to play it. Obi-Wan, this deck, one of the things that I'm questioning about this deck is how light it is on Sentinels. I don't think Mace particularly needs Sentinels because you answer a lot of units. The problem with Mace is you can't answer most units in one action. That is what the blue deck solves for you. But this isn't a hard control deck. Like, it's not like running like 3 takedowns, 3 fells, 2 rivals falls, and stuff like that. So I would wonder if you could work in a few sentinels in here and maybe have some better play into some aggro decks. I'm not really sure. I wish I knew how the Han Yellow matches went, like what the plays were that led up to the victories. I'm assuming Regional Governor was significant. I'm assuming the Force Throws and the Pillages were significant. And of course, like, in a double yellow matchup, the double yellow units aren't that great. Like, they're not strong units. They're more about like the tricks that they do, like Bodhi, Bouncer, and all those. Like, they're more about the tricks. So I'm assuming like the reason this Mace ended up winning is discard, Force Throws, Pillages, and then just play better units than the opponent. Like, play the Luke Skywalkers, play the Obi-Wan Kenobis, play the Redemptions, So that's what I'm assuming happened, and I'm assuming why the Mace deck took the victory. But really great deck. In the sideboard, we got the Juggernauts for the aggro match, I'm assuming. And then the other grenade strikes. The home one out of aspect for 10. That's some serious spice there. I love it. Get back Yoda, get back Tech. Great deck. I mean, I said Mace Windu was tier 1. Here we go. Check it out. It's tier 1. But I wanted to say that this list inspired me to improve my own red deck. I've been playing the red deck a lot. I haven't had as much success, obviously. I haven't won a PQ. So definitely, if you're going to benchmark and you're going to base your Mace Blue list, start with this, make adjustments. I think it could use Sabine unit for early game play in aggro decks, I feel. Like, Sabine unit just answers the Crafty Smugglers and the L3s that Mace struggles with. That way you don't have to waste the Perilous, and you can save the Perilous for like space units or the leaders. Some different options that you have, I feel. But this is here, right? Like, this is a tier 1 deck, and I'm so happy to see it. Congratulations to Owls Unlimited. I'm assuming that may be the store, but congratulations to the player that I mean, you're beating Han Yellow, you're winning. That's a well-fought win. Like, that's a well-deserved win. So kudos, and great job, Mace Windu. So moving into the updates that I'm going to do, that I've done to my Mace Red deck. Now, how does Mace Red differ from Mace Blue, right? Mace Blue is more of a control deck. Like, you're more like stalling to the point in which you get to Luke, you get to the Redemption. You have the home ones in the sideboard for 10. So obviously, like, it's more of a control deck. The red deck doesn't have the healing, right? So it's more aggressive. And so one of the mistakes I made this weekend playing my Mace deck at Showdowns, I ended up 1-3. I should have ended 2-2 because of a misplay. So I feel like the deck went even, and the more I play Unlimited Power, the more I think the card is just absolutely busted. Every time I play Unlimited Power, I'm killing 2 to 3 units, and just it's so strong. It's like Open Fire Plus, because it does 4 damage, and dealing that 4 damage immediately with Mace is so significant. Get in that Mace threshold. It's just such a great card. So I added in a third one. I did add in the Bombing Run. So many people have been commenting about Bombing Run. I do like Bombing Run into Unlimited Power, or Bombing Run into Rancor. Really good. Or like turn 4 or turn 3 on 4 resource, you could do Grenade Strike, a 2-drop play, and then Bombing Run next turn to clean up the Grenade Strike. Like, there's a lot of plays, and I think, like, that's what Mace Windu is all about, like, stacking effects, like stacking ping effects, especially the red deck. I added the Fell the Dragon main because I feel like we needed it to have the play in the late game. Like, they're probably going to drop one big unit, and we only need that one unit removal to kind of push out to end the game. The Resolutes have been excellent to clean up. Like, because, like, you'll get in the late game, you'll have wiped their board, and then they'll start refilling their board with 2-drops they've been accumulating. That's when the Resolute comes in to kind of end the game and clean up those 2-drops. And just, yeah, like, the updates to the Mace deck, the Mace Windu's Lightsaber, really significant. I went way lighter on the early game, as kind of modeled from the Mace Windu Blue list that won, because it played so little early game. And I think that's what you need to do with Mace. Light on early game, heavier into the mid and late game, kind of riding out into the late game. So that's what I did. I like dropped down to 2 Bo-Katans, I dropped the other spaceships. I added in a Smuggler's Aid main, which actually has been so significant to the deck. Because I found that when I was losing, I was most often losing to Foracaws. Like, I would clear the board, I would have them on lock, and then they would Foracaws me twice. And I would just lose. So the Smuggler's Aid is a perfect counter to Foracaws. It's such a tempo card. You know, on the Mace flip, being able to smuggle it for 3. Like, you know, you go Open Fire Mace, or you go Red 3 Mace, and then Smuggler's Aid from Smuggle to just give you that little bit of breathing room to close out the game. Really great card. Great in the Mace Windu deck. So yeah, if you've been wondering if Mace Windu is tier 1, let me answer that question for you. Yes. He is tier 1, and we know that now for sure. So if you like this video, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe for all the best gaming guides, deck profile videos, and match videos for Star Wars Unlimited. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the new subscribers we've been getting. The PQ season is such a great time, and we are rolling into set 4 as a force. All the new stuff is coming out. It's going to be so fun. So stick around and stick with Random Number Gaming. Thank you.